The council chamber was silent. Ambassador Velther stood at the center of the massive circular room, his scaled hands gripping the speaking platform. Around him, representatives from 47 different species waited in their seats. But one seat remained empty. The human seat dotted had been empty for 6 months now. "We must address the situation," Velther announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The humans have abandoned their posts. They have left without permission, without notice, without any explanation whatsoever." A murmur ran through the assembled delegates. Some seemed concerned. Others appeared relieved. Velther belonged to the second group, though he tried to hide it. "Good riddance," someone muttered from the back rows. A few delegates nodded in agreement. The Krelian ambassador continued. "We have sent survey teams to every human settlement, every colony, every outpost. What they found was strange." He paused, accessing his data tablet. "All human facilities are intact. Power stations are running. Factories are operational. Agricultural centers are producing food. But there are no humans anywhere." "What do you mean intact?" asked Counselor Zenmar, one of the older members. "They simply vanished?" "Precisely," Velther replied. "Our teams report that everything looks as if the humans just stepped out for a moment. Meals half-eaten. Workstations active. Even their automated systems are still functioning perfectly. But when we try to access their AI networks or automated facilities, they refuse to respond to our commands." This caused more discussion among the delegates. It was unprecedented. When a species left council space, they usually dismantled their infrastructure or handed it over properly. The humans had done neither. A junior analyst named Kelvos stepped forward nervously. He was young for a council position, barely into his 3rd decade. "Ambassador, I have been reviewing the human records. Their last official communication was 6 months and 4 days ago. It was a simple message from Administrator Jisoo of the Harmony Station colony." "What did it say?" Zenmar asked. Kelvos activated a holographic display. The image of a human woman appeared. She looked tired. Her black hair was pulled back simply, and her dark eyes seemed sad. When she spoke, her voice was calm and measured. "This is Administrator Jisoo of Harmony Station. I am filing our final status report. All systems are green. All quotas have been met. All obligations have been fulfilled. We've left detailed instruction manuals for the maintenance of all facilities in Council space. We thank the Council for allowing us to serve. Goodbye." The message ended. The hologram disappeared. "That's it?" Velther said dismissively. "No explanation? No reasoning? How typically irresponsible of them." But Zenmar was frowning. "Play it again," he ordered. Kelvos replayed the message. This time, several delegates leaned forward, studying the human woman's face more carefully. There was something in her expression. Something final. "She said goodbye," Zenmar noted quietly. "Not farewell or until next time. Goodbye. Does it matter?" Velther waved a hand dismissively. The humans were always too emotional, too sensitive. Perhaps they finally realized they didn't belong at the council table and left on their own. They held 47 different specialized positions across council operations. Kelvos interjected softly. They managed 17 major trade routes. They operated 23 research facilities. Yes, Velther interrupted. They did the work no one else wanted to do. Simple labor. We can replace them easily enough. Kelvos looked like he wanted to say more but fell silent. He was too junior to argue with an ambassador. The council session continued for another hour. They discussed plans to take over human facilities. They debated who would inherit human territories. Some delegates argued about who deserved the most valuable human colonies. Throughout it all, the empty chair sat there, A silent presence that everyone tried to ignore dot as the session ended and delegates began filing out. Zenmar approached Calvos. "You wanted to say something earlier. What was it?" The young analyst hesitated, then pulled up his data tablet. "Elder Counselor, I've been analyzing the economic reports. In just 6 months, 17 colony worlds have reported supply chain failures. 23 medical centers are requesting emergency assistance. 41 manufacturing plants have halted production due to missing components." "That seems excessive for just 6 months, Zenmar said, his concern growing. "That's what troubles me," Calvos admitted. "I started cross-referencing the failures with human positions. Elder Counselor, every single failure connects back to something humans were managing. They weren't just doing simple labor. They were doing critical work that held multiple systems together." Zenmar was silent for a long moment, staring at the empty human chair. "Have you reported this to Ambassador Velther?" "I tried," he said. I was being alarmist. He said humans were primitive and easily replaced. The Elder Counselor sighed deeply. "Continue your analysis. Report to me directly. And Calvos? Find out everything you can about why they left. Check their historical records, their communications, everything." "Yes, Elder Counselor." As Calvos left, Zenmar remained in the empty chamber. He walked slowly to the human seat and placed his hand on it. It was just a chair, but somehow it felt heavier now. More significant. He remembered the last human he had spoken with. It had been Tae-Won, an aide to the previous ambassador. Tae-Won had been polite, efficient, and quiet. Like most humans, he had done his work without complaint or fanfare. Zenmar had barely noticed him. Truthfully, now he wished he had paid more attention. Outside the chamber windows, stars glittered in the darkness of space. Somewhere out there, humanity had gone. But where? And more importantly, why? The question hung in the air like a weight, pressing down on the council. They just didn't realize it yet. They would soon enough. 3 months had passed since the council's emergency session. 3 months, and everything was falling apart. Calvo sat in his small office, surrounded by screens displaying disaster reports. His 3 eyes scanned through them rapidly, but he could barely keep up. Every hour brought new problems. Every day revealed another system failure. His communication panel blinked. It was Elder Counselor Zenmar. "Report." The Elder's voice came through, heavy with exhaustion. "It's getting worse," Calvo said simply. "The Velrus plague has spread to 4 more worlds. Without the vaccine synthesizers, we have no way to stop it. The humans were the only ones who understood the molecular structure well enough to produce the cure. How many dead? 40,000 so far. Projected to reach 500,000 within 6 months. Zenmar made a sound of anguish. What else? The Corthan and Vex ill trade dispute has erupted into armed conflict. 3 ships destroyed yesterday. The humans used to mediate those disputes. Without them, both sides refused to negotiate. Send peacekeepers. We did. Both sides fired on them. They only trusted human mediators. On one of Calvo's screens, a video file was playing. It showed a human man in an engineer's uniform. His name tag read, Hyan Wu. The video was old, recorded several years ago during a training session. The filtration system might look simple. Hyan Wu was explaining patiently to a group of trainees from various species. But it's designed with 17 redundancy layers. Each layer compensates for the others. If you try to modify one part without understanding how it connects to the whole system, you'll create cascade failures. One of the trainees, a Krelian, had interrupted him. This seems unnecessarily complex. Why not simplify it? Hyan Wu had smiled slightly. Because simple systems fail completely. Complex systems fail gracefully. When something goes wrong, and something always goes wrong. This design keeps people alive long enough to fix the problem. The video ended. Calvos rubbed his eyes tiredly. That filtration system was now failing on 12 different stations. The Krelian engineers had tried to simplify it. 30 people had died from air contamination so far that another screen showed a different recording. This one featured a human woman named Dae-yoon, standing in a laboratory. She looked excited as she explained her research. "We're making real progress on the virus cure," Dae-yoon was saying. "The key is understanding how the virus mutates. It's not random. There's a pattern. Once you see the pattern, you can predict the mutations and design countermeasures in advance." The date stamp on the video was 8 months old. 2 months before the humans left, Calvos had found Dae-yoon's research notes in the abandoned laboratory. They were detailed, meticulous, and utterly incomprehensible to the Council's top scientists. The human woman had been working on concepts that the Council's best minds couldn't even understand, let alone replicate. His door chimed. "Enter," he called. Threxel, the Council's chief economist, shuffled in. The elderly being looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Have you seen the latest trade reports?" "I've seen them." "Then you know we're finished." Threxel collapsed into a chair. 214 trade routes are non-functional. The humans negotiated, managed, or guaranteed every single one of them. Do you know what they did? They made themselves essential without anyone noticing. They were the glue holding together species that hated each other. Calvos pulled up a map of Council space. It was covered in red indicators, each one marking a crisis point. "I'm starting to think it was intentional." "What was?" "The way they left. Everything's still running. All the systems operational, but refusing our commands. They're showing us exactly what they did. Exactly what we've lost." Threxel was quiet for a moment. "Do you think they'll come back?" "Would you?" The economist had no answer. Another alert flashed on Calvos' screen. This one made his heart sink. "No," he whispered. "What is it?" "The Viridian manufacturing complex just went dark. That's where 70% of medical supplies are produced. But the humans left those facilities operational." "Yes, operational but locked. Our technicians finally managed to break into the control systems and tried to restart production. But they didn't understand the startup sequence. They triggered a safety shutdown. Now the entire complex is offline, and we don't know how to restart it." Threxel stood up slowly. "I need to inform the Council." "Wait." Calvos pulled up another file. "You should see this first." It was a personal log recovered from Harmony Station. The entry was from a human child named Youngjae, only 12 cycles old. Her handwriting was careful and neat. "Today at school, the Krelian kids called me dirt digger again. Teacher didn't stop them. Mom says we just have to be patient. Dad says we prove ourselves through our work, not our words. I asked them why we stay if nobody likes us. Mom said someone has to keep the lights on. Dad said someone has to do the right thing, even when it's hard. I don't understand why it has to be us. But I'll try to be patient like them." The log entry was dated 10 years earlier. Youngjae would be 22 now. If she was even still alive. Threxel read the entry 3 times. 10 years. She endured that for 10 years. They all did, Calvos said quietly. "I found hundreds of these logs. Thousands. Humans documenting every slight, every insult, every time they were passed over for promotion despite being the most qualified. Every time their ideas were dismissed. Every time they were treated as inferior. Did they ever complain officially? No, not once. They just wrote it all down and kept working." Threxel moved to the window, looking out at the council complex. In the distance, an emergency shuttle was landing, probably bringing more disaster reports. Ambassador Velther still insists this is sabotage, the economist said. He claims the humans deliberately crippled our systems before leaving. The systems aren't crippled. They work perfectly. We just don't know how to use them. Calvo stood and joined Threxel at the window. That's worse somehow. They didn't break anything. They just left us with tools we don't deserve and can't operate. What do? Keep searching. Keep trying to fix things. Keep hoping we survive long enough to learn our lesson. And what lesson is that? Calvos thought of Haiyan Wu, patiently explaining complex systems. Of Dayun, excitedly sharing her breakthroughs. Of Young Jae, enduring cruelty with quiet dignity. Of Jisoo, saying goodbye with sad, tired eyes. That some species don't need to be loud to be important, he said finally. And by the time you realize what you had, it's already gone. Calvos had been working in the archives for 6 days straight. His colleagues worried about him, but he couldn't stop. Not now. Not when he was so close to understanding that the human data archives were massive. 200 years of records, all meticulously organized and preserved. The humans had documented everything. Every meeting. Every decision. Every interaction with other council species. It was all there, waiting to be read. He had started with recent files and worked backward. What he found made his 3 hearts ache. Kellos. Elder Counselor Zinmar appeared at the archive entrance. You need to rest. I found something, Calvo said, not looking away from his screens. Something everyone needs to see. Zenmar approached slowly. He looked older than he had 9 months ago. The stress was wearing on him. What did you find? The truth. Calvos pulled up a file. This is from a human historian named Booram. She maintained what they called the unredacted archive. It's everything the official records left out. The screen filled with text. Zenmar began reading, and his expression grew darker with each line. Year 23 of council membership, one entry read. Proposal submitted for mutual defense improvements. Rejected. Reason. Given. Human military concepts are too primitive. Note. The Krelians adopted the same concepts 2 years later and took full credit. Another entry. Year 45. Humans now pay triple taxation compared to other species. When questioned, Council Treasury stated this was to encourage human economic growth. No other species faces similar encouragement. Another. Year 67. Human representative denied voting rights on council floor. Ambassador Velther's statement. When humans prove themselves worthy, they will earn a voice. No criteria for worthiness was defined. The entries went on. And on. And on. 200 years of this, Calvo said quietly. 200 years of being treated as servants. Of having their ideas stolen. Of being taxed unfairly. Of being denied basic representation. And they never once filed an official complaint. Why not? Because they knew it wouldn't matter. Calvos pulled up another file. This is from the personal diary of Young Jae. Remember her? The child from the earlier log? Zenmar nodded silently. The diary was different now. Young Jae was older. 20 years old when she wrote this entry. Grandfather died today, the entry began. He came to council space when he was young, full of hope. He believed that if humans worked hard enough, proved themselves enough, we would be accepted as equals. He spent 60 years doing the jobs no one else wanted. Maintaining the systems everyone else found too boring. Mediating disputes between species who barely acknowledged his existence. He died still believing that one day we'd be valued. The entry continued. I don't have grandfather's faith anymore. I've watched my parents endure the same treatment he did. I've endured it myself. We're never going to be equals here. The council doesn't want equals. They want servants who are smart enough to fix their problems, but quiet enough to ignore. And that's what we've been. Quiet, patient, useful, but never valued. Young Jay's final line hit like a physical blow. Maybe it's time to stop being quiet. Zenmar sat down heavily. When was this written? 3 years before they left. The elder counselor closed his eyes. I was there, he said softly. Year 67, when Velthor denied the humans voting rights. I didn't speak up. I told myself it wasn't my place to interfere. That the humans seemed to accept it peacefully, so it must be fine. He opened his eyes, and they were filled with regret. I was wrong. Kelvos pulled up another file. There's more. This is from Sunho, the last human observer to the council. He wrote this the day before humanity left. Sunho's message was brief, but devastating in its simplicity. We came to the council with open hands and open hearts. We offered our knowledge, our labor, our friendship. We asked only to be treated with basic respect and given a fair voice in decisions that affected us. For 200 years, we tried. We worked harder. We contributed more. We stayed patient and hopeful. But respect isn't earned through servitude. It's given freely, or it's not respect at all. The council has made its position clear. We are useful, but we are not equals. We are tools, not partners. So we're leaving. Not in anger, though we have every right to be angry. Not with threats, though we could make many. We're leaving simply because there's nothing left for us here. You don't want us. You want what we can do for you. And we're tired of the difference. Goodbye. The archive room was silent, except for the quiet hum of computers. There's one more thing, Calvo said. He pulled up a comprehensive report. I've analyzed every proposal humans submitted to the council over 200 years. Do you know how many were accepted? How many? 12. Out of over 8,000 proposals. Even accounting for overlap and impractical ideas, humans had a 99.7% rejection rate. The highest of any council species by a factor of 20. But their proposals were later implemented by other species who took credit for them. Yes, I cross-referenced that too. 67% of human proposals were eventually adopted, just not under human names. We didn't reject their ideas because they were bad. We rejected them because they came from humans. Zenmar stood and walked to the archive window. Outside, another emergency shuttle was landing. The 9th one today. The galaxy was collapsing, and they were only now beginning to understand why. I need to call an emergency council session, the elder said. Everyone needs to hear this. Ambassador Velthor won't believe it. He'll say, we're being manipulated by human lies. Then he's a fool. Zenmar turned back to face Kelvos. Compile everything. Every entry from Bioram's archive. Every diary entry. Every rejected proposal. Every piece of evidence. Make it impossible to deny. Kelvos nodded and returned to his work. As Zenmar left, the young analyst pulled up one final file. It was a video from a human settlement, recorded just days before humanity left. The video showed a small gathering. Humans of all ages, sitting together in what looked like a community center. An elderly woman was speaking. Her name tag identified her as Elder He-1. We've made our decision, He-1 said. The vote was unanimous. We're leaving council space. I know some of you hoped things would change. That maybe the next generation would see us differently. But hope without evidence is just wishful thinking. We've given them 200 years of evidence that we're valuable. If that wasn't enough, nothing will be. A young human in the crowd stood. What if they need us? What if everything falls apart? He-1's expression was sad but firm. Then maybe they'll learn something. Or maybe they won't. Either way, it's not our responsibility anymore. We tried. We really, truly tried. Now it's time to try something else. Something better." The video ended. Calvo sat in the darkness of the archive, surrounded by the ghosts of 200 years of patience. The humans had documented everything. Every slight. Every disappointment. Every moment they chose dignity over anger. They had tried. And the council had failed them. Now the question was whether the council could learn from that failure before it was too late. Captain Drevener stood on the bridge of the council search vessel Seeker's Promise, staring at the view screen in disbelief. Before him floated the remains of a human shipyard. Except it wasn't really remains. It was fully intact, just abandoned. "Captain," his sensor officer called out. "You need to see this." Drevener moved to the sensor station. "What am I looking at?" "The shipyard's construction bays. They're enormous, 3 times larger than our biggest facilities." But that's not the strange part. The officer highlighted several sections on the display. "These are prototype drives. The readings don't match any known FTL technology." "Unknown technology isn't that unusual." "Sir, these readings suggest travel speeds 50 times faster than our current drives. Maybe more. The mathematics involved is..." The officer trailed off, clearly struggling to comprehend what she was seeing. Drevener had been searching for humans for 3 months now. His fleet had visited 17 human settlements, 23 research outposts, and 6 major shipyards. Everywhere, they found the same thing: abandoned facilities filled with technology that made council equipment look primitive by comparison. "Send a team aboard," Drevener ordered. "I want every piece of data recovered and analyzed." 6 hours later, he was reading the reports in his ready room. Each one was more disturbing than the last. The humans had developed new forms of FTL travel, new power generation systems, new weapons that make Council arsenal look like toys, medical technology decades beyond anything the Council possessed, manufacturing processes so efficient they bordered on miraculous, and they had kept it all secret. Why? Drevener wondered aloud. Why hide this? His first officer, Commander Telvis, sat across from him. Perhaps they feared we would take it from them. We would have. Drevener said it flatly, honestly. If we had known they possessed this, the Council would have demanded access to it. We would have claimed it was for the good of all Council species. But really, we would have claimed it as our own. Yes. Telvis pulled up a file on her tablet. Captain, we found something else in the shipyard archives. Personal logs from one of their engineers. A woman named Minji. She was the lead physicist on the FTL project. The log appeared on Drevener's screen. Minji was young, probably in her early 30s. She looked excited in the video, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. Success. Minji was practically bouncing. The test run exceeded all expectations. We've achieved stable FTL speeds of velocity factor 53. The drive is efficient, safe, and scalable. We could revolutionize galactic travel with this. The timestamp showed the video was 5 years old. The next log entry was dated 2 weeks later. Minji's enthusiasm had vanished. The Council rejected our proposal to share the FTL technology, she said flatly. They didn't reject the technology itself. They rejected us sharing it. Ambassador Velther said, and I quote, "When humans create something actually valuable, the Council will be interested." He didn't even look at our data. He just dismissed us. Another entry 1 year later. We've decided to keep the project classified. Not because we want to hide it, but because sharing it with people who don't respect us feels like giving away pieces of ourselves. If they valued us, they would listen to us. Since they don't, we'll keep this for ourselves. The final entry was dated 3 months before humanity left. The new drive is operational. We've equipped every human ship with it. Soon, we won't need council space at all. We can go anywhere. We can go somewhere better. Drevena closed the file and sat in silence. His crew had found similar logs throughout the human facilities. Scientists who had made breakthroughs that were ignored. Engineers who had designed solutions that were dismissed. Doctors who had discovered cures that were rejected simply because humans proposed them. All of them had eventually stopped sharing. All of them had kept working, but only for themselves. They could have conquered us, Telvis said quietly. With this technology, they could have swept through council space in weeks. We would have been helpless, but they didn't. No, they just left. A communication alert sounded. It was from the exploration team still aboard the shipyard. Captain, we found something. You should come see this immediately. Drevena and Telvis transported to the shipyard. The exploration team led them to what appeared to be a research library. Physical books, rare in this age of digital storage, lined the walls. Here, sir. One of the team members held out a slim volume. It's an essay collection. The last entry is marked as being written by someone named Junho. Drevena took the book carefully. The pages were real paper, delicate and precious. He found the marked essay and began to read aloud. On the Nature of Worth by Junho, human philosopher. Worth cannot be proven. It can only be recognized. For 200 years, my people have tried to prove our worth to the council. We worked harder. We contributed more. We solved problems others couldn't solve. We did everything asked of us and more. And still, we were not valued. This taught us an important lesson. We were trying to prove something to people who had already decided we had no worth. No amount of evidence will change a mind that refuses to see. So we stopped trying to prove ourselves. Not because we gave up, but because we realized the problem wasn't with us. A diamond doesn't lose its value just because someone mistakes it for ordinary stone. The fault lies with the observer, not the diamond. We are not leaving because we failed to prove our worth. We are leaving because we finally understood that we don't need to. Our worth exists independent of their recognition. And that means we are free. Free to find somewhere better. Somewhere where worth is recognized, not earned through suffering. We will not beg to be valued. We will not diminish ourselves to fit their expectations. We will simply go. And perhaps, in our absence, they will finally see what they refused to acknowledge when we were present. The ready room was silent. Drevena read the essay 3 more times, each word cutting deeper. Captain, the science officer's voice came over the communicator. We found something else. It's a star map. It shows a trajectory for the human fleet. Where does it lead? Outside council space. Far outside. To a region we've never explored. There are markers indicating potential habitable systems, resource deposits, and something else we can't identify. The notation just says, the garden. Drevena looked at his first officer. They found somewhere better. Or they're building somewhere better. Either way, they're gone. They had the technology to leave us behind, and they used it. Telvis gestured to the essay. He was right. We never saw their worth. We saw their usefulness and mistook it for weakness. Drevena returned to his ship and sent his report to the council. Along with it, he included Minji's logs, Junho's essay, and all the technical data they had recovered. His final note was simple. The humans didn't abandon us. We pushed them away through 200 years of disrespect. They could have destroyed us. Instead, they just found somewhere better to be. We have lost something irreplaceable, and we have only ourselves to blame. As the Seeker's promise turned back toward council space, Drevena looked at the star map one last time. The human trajectory led to a vast unexplored region, rich with possibility. A place where they could build a civilization on their own terms. Where their worth would be recognized because they would be the ones setting the standards. He envied them, and he mourned what the council had lost through its own blindness. The search was over. The humans were gone, and they weren't coming back. The council chamber was in chaos. Delegates shouted at each other. Some demanded action. Others blamed everyone around them. A few simply sat in stunned silence, watching their civilization crumble. 1 year had passed since humanity left. 1 year, and the galaxy was dying. Elder Counselor Zenmar stood at the center of the chamber, waiting for silence. He looked ancient now, aged by stress and regret. Finally, the noise died down enough for him to speak. "We stand on the edge," he said simply. "In 3 months, maybe 6, Council civilization will collapse completely. The plague has killed millions. Trade wars have destroyed our economy. Our technology is failing because we don't know how to maintain it. We are dying. This is the humans' fault." Ambassador Velther shouted from his seat. The Krelian looked hollow, his scales dull and lifeless. "They sabotaged us." "No." Zenmar's voice was firm. "They didn't. Analyst Kelvos has spent the past year investigating. He has proven, beyond any doubt, that the humans left everything functional. Our failures are our own. We simply don't know how to do what the humans did for us." Velther started to protest, but Zenmar raised a hand. "There's something you all need to see. Something that explains everything." He gestured, and a hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It was a sculpture beautiful and complex. The figure of a human stood holding up what appeared to be the sky, dozens of worlds balanced on their shoulders. But the human's face was turned away, looking toward distant stars. "This sculpture stood in the eastern wing of the council complex," Zenmar explained. "It was created by a human artist named Hanul. She installed it 10 years ago. We barely noticed it. Just another decoration. Why show us this now?" Someone asked, because it was never just a sculpture. Zenmar touched a control, and the hologram shifted. "It's been a message device all along. Hanul built it to activate when certain conditions were met. When the council reached a crisis point, when we were ready to listen, the sculpture began to glow. A transmission began to play. A human man appeared. He was middle-aged, with kind eyes and a gentle smile that didn't quite hide his sadness. His name appeared on the display. Sang-Woo, final speaker for humanity. "Hello," Sang-Woo said. "If you're seeing this, it means our systems detected that Council civilization is approaching collapse. It means you've finally realized what we did for you. It means you're ready to hear what we need to say." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "You treated us as servants while we held up your sky. For 200 years, we carried your burdens. We fixed your problems. We mediated your conflicts. We maintained your systems. We did the work you found too boring, too difficult, or too beneath you. And we never asked for much in return. Just respect. Just recognition. Just a voice in the decisions that affected us." Sang-Woo's expression hardened slightly. "You gave us none of those things. You gave us contempt. You gave us dismissal. You gave us 200 years of being told we weren't good enough, smart enough, or worthy enough. And still, we stayed. Still, we worked. Still, we hoped that maybe eventually you would see us as equals." The transmission showed images now. Human engineers working on massive machines. Human doctors treating patients of dozens of different species. Human teachers educating council children. Human farmers feeding hungry worlds. All of them doing their work with quiet dignity, while others barely acknowledged their existence. "We gave you chances," Sang-Woo continued. "Hundreds of chances. Thousands. Every day we stayed was another chance for you to change. To grow. To recognize that worth isn't determined by species or strength or political power. It's inherent. We tried to teach you that through our actions, but you never learned. His voice grew firmer. So we're not coming back. This isn't a negotiation. This isn't a bargaining position. We're gone. We found something better, or we're building something better. Either way, our future doesn't include you. Sang-Woo leaned forward, his gaze piercing through the hologram. You're gonna want to blame us for your collapse. Don't. Your systems aren't failing because we sabotaged them. They're failing because you never bothered to understand them. You took our work for granted. You assumed we were simple, so our work must be simple too. You were wrong. Everything we built with complexity and care. We built it to last. But we also built it to be maintained by people who understood it, who respected it, who valued the knowledge behind it. That was never you. The images changed again. This time, showing council delegates dismissing human proposals. Ambassador Velther refusing to even look at human innovations. Council members laughing at human ideas that would later be adopted under different names. This is not revenge, Sang-Woo said clearly. Revenge would be if we had destroyed your systems or sabotaged your infrastructure. We didn't. We left everything working. We even left instruction manuals. The fact that you can't use what we left isn't our fault. It's yours. You chose ignorance. You chose arrogance. Now you're living with the consequences. He sat back, and his expression softened again. Some of you might learn from this. Some of you might look at what happened and understand where you went wrong. If you do, if you survive and rebuild, maybe you'll create something better. Maybe you'll treat the next species with more respect. Maybe you'll recognize worth when you see it instead of waiting until it's gone. Sang-Woo smiled sadly. But that's your journey, not ours. We're done being your teachers. We're done being your servants. We're done being your unacknowledged foundation. This is simply us leaving. Goodbye. The transmission ended, but the sculpture remained glowing. Text appeared beneath it, simple and final. Administrator Jisoo, final words to the council. Maybe one day, you'll be ready for equals. Until then, goodbye. The chamber was silent. Absolutely silent. Some delegates stared at the sculpture in shock. Others looked down at their hands, unable to meet anyone's gaze. Velther sat frozen in his seat, his face a mask of horror and realization. QEL single quotes verse stood slowly. I have a proposal, he said. We need to fundamentally reform the council. New rules, new structures, new attitudes. If we survive this, we need to make sure it never happens again. Reform won't bring them back, someone said. No, Zenmar agreed. Nothing will bring them back. But if we survive, we owe it to them to be better. We owe it to ourselves to learn. Velther stood abruptly. His voice was broken. I did this. I was the loudest voice against them. I dismissed them. I denied them rights. I convinced others to ignore them. He looked around the chamber. And I was wrong. Completely, totally wrong. They were the best of us. They were patient and kind and brilliant, and we treated them like dirt. And now we're dying because of it. The Krelian ambassador walked slowly to the empty human chair. He placed his hand on it, just as Zenmar had done a year ago. I can't fix this. None of us can. But we can try to do better. If we get the chance. Zenmar looked around the chamber. All those in favor of fundamental council reform? Every hand rose. Every single one. Not because they expected it to bring the humans back, but because it was the only thing they could still do. As the session ended and delegates filed out, Zenmar remained behind. He walked to Hanul's sculpture and studied it carefully. The human figure holding up worlds, looking toward distant stars. Finally free. Thank you, he whispered to the empty air. for everything you did, for every moment of patience, for every time you chose to stay when you could have left, for giving us more chances than we deserved." He touched the sculpture gently. "I hope you found something better out there. I hope you're building something wonderful. I hope you're finally valued the way you always should have been." Outside the chamber windows, the stars glittered. Somewhere out there, humanity was thriving, building, creating, living free of those who had diminished them. The council stood on the edge of extinction, finally understanding what they had lost. They might survive. They might rebuild. They might learn, or they might not. Either way, as Sangwoo had said, it was their journey now. The humans were done helping those who had never truly valued them. The empty chair remained in the chamber, a memorial to 200 years of patience and the price of taking others for granted. It would stay empty forever, a reminder of what happened when worth went unrecognized until it was too late. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was out there somewhere, finally free to be equals among themselves rather than servants to those who would never see them as such. The council had learned its lesson. They had learned it the hard way, the way all the most important lessons are learned, through loss.